name is Lenny Krayzelburg. I'm a four-time Olympic gold medalist from 2000 Sydney Games and Athens Games 2004. I was a team captain of U.S. Olympic swim team in 2004. I'm a Trojan, a graduate of University of Southern California, swam at USC. My roots go back to Ukraine. I was born in Ukraine, former Soviet Union, and came to the U.S. when I was a 13-year-old kid. I did start my swimming career or learning how to swim and being involved in the sport when I was 5 in Soviet Union, and was selected into a sports system back when I was about 9 years old. A famous Soviet sports system, which was basically where they went around youth clubs and selected kids that they thought had potential and pulled them out of it and really got them hyper focused on their particular sports. And I was selected into a swim group, and it was definitely a pretty interesting experience, to say the least. Fourth grade, 9 years old, remember training 5 hours a day. A lot of intensity, a lot of pressure. But I will tell you that I feel that that experience as a kid really molded me and built my character and really established a foundation that I feel like carried me through my career, especially, when I was ascending to being the best in the world. Those fundamentals and the value of hard work, and nothing is going to be given to you, were always with me. And I attribute that a lot to my experience as a young kid.
And does that help make the transition from Ukraine to the United States?
It definitely did. I mean, obviously we moved as a family. We immigrated to Los Angeles, so a drastic change, cultural change, obviously coming from a pretty closed society, communist environment. Being Jewish, faced a lot of anti-Semitism when I was a kid. Coming to LA is very different.
Wide open, right?
Wide open. Yeah, a lot of freedom. A lot of freedom of expression, things that I wasn't necessarily used to have ever experienced it myself. But I will tell you, though, that, and of course, moving into a new country, not knowing the language, also seeing how my parents struggled to assimilate, was definitely challenging. But again, I think that the character building and the fundamentals that I got growing up in Soviet Union and in that tough environment, I think were very helpful to be able to weather these challenges of adapting in the new country and all the ups and downs that come with being new in a new environment and trying to assimilate yourself. So that was definitely, that experience of Soviet Union experience definitely was helpful to get comfortable and get settled in the United States and in LA especially.
Okay, so now you were an elite swimmer in Ukraine, and you've moved to LA. What was the first day like when you walked into a pool and said, "I want to do this here"? What was your reaction to everyone else and their reaction to you? Because you're just off the street,
Yeah, that's a great question, because I had a very interesting experience. So the first time I walk into the pool, and the first practice I do, and keep in mind that I was going through the whole immigration process where we actually lived in Austria for a couple of weeks and then Italy a couple of months during the immigration process. So I wasn't training at all.
Right.
And then I get to LA, so I haven't been training really for probably about 4 months or so, three to 4 months. I get to LA and I started to work out, and I'm swimming really fast. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Like, my times are in practice are like 10 seconds faster than what I'm typically used to. And I'm like, something is not right. And it took me about a week to realize that I was swimming in a 25-yard pool And in Soviet Union, we didn't have yards. We have
Yeah,
meters,
meters, right?
which is a longer pool, 25 meters pool. So it took me about a week to realize why I'm swimming, training so much faster. But that was a nice, welcoming reality into this experience in the new
This place
country.
is great. Yeah.
I know, absolutely.
All right. So now we go from now we're established in America, which I know I'm glossing over because it probably is a lot more difficult than I'm making it seem. But now you're thinking, okay, can I be an elite swimmer here if I was an elite swimmer there? Or at least I was on the path to that. Or is it, again, more difficult than it seems once you get the meters and the yards figured out?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, for me personally, it was more difficult than that. Part of it is also because financially, I needed to help my family settle in and support and help them out a little bit. So I also had to work as a teenager, 15, 16 years old, and be able to train at the same time.
Right.
And LA is not a small city, so even to get to practices was an hour bus ride each way. So there was a lot of logistical challenges to be able to get the type of training I needed to be competitive in my age group, not just in at first in Southern California. We're not even talking about nationally.
Right.
So that period of time, basically 14 through end of high school, I wasn't excelling much at all. I was swimming, but to be honest with you, I didn't have the Olympic aspirations, nor did I think I even had a chance to get to that level. Just didn't think it was realistic. But I enjoyed the sport and I enjoyed the process. I've always enjoyed the grind. That's something that I rise to that occasion. I love the challenge. I love the physical challenges that came with the sport. So I've always enjoyed that. And I guess that's what really kept me at it. Although there wasn't much performance improvement in terms of improved times.
Well,
And
it's funny. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It's funny that you mentioned that because a lot of the people that I talk to, it's kind of that same thing. I didn't know I was going to be Lenny. I was just Lenny. And I still enjoyed doing it. And that became somebody later. But I enjoyed the passion is what kept me going to become that person. And that's kind of the overriding factor. I'm like, I'm enjoying the sport or the grind, especially before I get to be that guy. So that's very important to understand.
Yeah, Frank, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing it for so long and and you commit so much time to it, you gotta enjoy it. Even when it's hard, you have to enjoy that hard process. Because otherwise, you're gonna get to a point where mentally you're gonna tune it out. So if you're not enjoying it, and if you're mentally tuning it out, you're not bringing 100%. That's just that's how we as humans work. That's how we operate. So I've always enjoyed it. So I didn't really through high school, I wasn't improving, and I got no interest from any Division I university to swim collegiately because I just wasn't fast enough. So I went to a community college in LA just to take classes once I graduated high school, and the community college had a swim team. And you don't need to, in the community college, you can just walk onto a swim team. You don't need any recruiting. So I walked into the coach's office where I found a coach on campus and asked if they had a swim team and if I can, train with them. And he said, yeah, of course, you can train with us. And my freshman ends up being freshman year, first year out of high school. I basically swam at the community college. But I had a chance to train a little bit more than I did all throughout high school years.
Right.
And it really showed. My time started to improve, and I got a lot better throughout the year. And by end of the year at the junior college national or state championships, I won the championships and actually broke the junior college national record in 200 backstroke. So I had a pretty dramatic improvement in about a year. And my coach at that community college really felt that he wasn't, that I needed to be at the next level. I needed
Hmm.
to have an opportunity to train with athletes that were better than me. And he reached out to the coach at USC, Mark Schubert, at that time, and told him, I got this really talented kid, but he's raw. Can he come and train with you in the summertime? And Mark at USC gave me that opportunity to come and train with his group um, during the summer of '94. And his group included Olympic champions, world record holders, world champions. So it was an elite NC2A champion. So it was an elite group of athletes. Um, and skill level and time wise, I didn't belong with them at that time. But what I appreciated was the opportunity, and I always talk about opportunity and taking advantage of the opportunities that we have and are given in life,
Right.
and never taking it for granted. And I think it's really important to realize that, and to hold on to that. And that opportunity to be around people that were better than me, that I can push myself, was really that opened up my eye, that build the confidence in me. And as I mentioned to you, I was never afraid to work hard. But when you're now in an environment where you can put that hard work with people that are better than you, it just raises you. It raises your level of performance to the to that next layer. And in 2 months, by the end of the summer, Mark pulls me into his office and says, Lenny, I think you can be the best backstroker in the world one day.
Wow.
And I'd love to, I want to give you a full ride to USC. And, my world basically changed during that conversation, when someone told me that they believe I can be the best.
Wow.
And then I started to realize that, yeah, maybe I can be the best. And that was a life-changing conversation, life-changing experience. And that was the summer of '94. 2 years after that, I won my first U.S. national championships.
Wow.
Got on the national team. And between '96 and 2000 Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, I only lost one race.
Wow.
So talk about, that confidence building, the opportunity to be with people that are better than you, not being afraid to work hard. I think that's really important. And Frank, I always say that I felt most satisfied when I would come home after 2 practices, fall on my couch, and have no energy to get up.
Right.
Then I knew I got the most out of the
You
day.
did it right.
Yeah,
Now,
and I love that feeling.
that is a great feeling because you've put everything into it, and you're going to recover, but you're not going to recover in 3 minutes, right?
Yes.
Now, when Coach Schubert said you can be the best backstroker in the world, were you at that point in your mind just a backstroker?
I was just a backstroker. Yes.
Okay.
I was just a backstroker. I didn't even imagine. I mean, what he told me was so far out there for me. I didn't think I ever belonged. I could be at that level. Frank, 2 years prior to that, I remember sitting at a swim meet in the stands. I didn't make the finals. I was just sitting and watching teenagers my age, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. They were in 200 backstroke. They were 10, 12 seconds better than me. I mean, that's so far. I mean, that's a generational difference. And yet, 3 years later, I'm a national champion. I'm beating all these guys. It was such an incredible experience just to go through it. And things honestly were kind of happening fast for me.
Really fast, yeah.
But yet I never took it for granted. I brought it every day because that's the only way to see success. You got to bring it every day.
Now, I may jump around in the timeline here, but at what point did you become a U.S. citizen?
In '95.
Okay.
So
okay.
In '95, I became a U.S. citizen. So I went to '96 Olympic trials and didn't make it. I was 5th in 200 backstroke in the finals, and only top 2 make it to the games.
Okay, so now we transfer to 2000, and you make the games. Now, and I've asked this question to everybody. There are a few moments in time when you realize that you're an Olympic athlete. When does it hit you? Is it, and I've asked this question, I've also got a few answers outside the question. Is it when you enter the Olympic Village? Is it when you have the opening ceremonies, or when you're at the meet ready to get in the water?
For me, is when you enter a dining hall in the Olympic Village.
Okay, okay.
Just because that's when you realize you're among the best athletes in the world, and you're in a very elite fraternity, or of
Right.
people that have been able to get to this point. So that was the first time that I really realized that, and truly appreciated where I was, and what was I was about to embark on.
And you're there and you're going, I just became a citizen just a few years ago, and now I'm representing the country that we voluntarily came to.
Yeah,
What's that feeling like?
that was incredible. But I tell you, that thought actually, it did cross it. I thought about that, but I thought about it when I was standing in a medal pedestal after the 100
Okay.
backstroke, when I won the gold medal, the national anthem was playing. And yes, that played in my mind, that 11 years prior to it, I came to America, and here I am, just just won an Olympic gold medal, and
Wow.
Star Spangled Banner is playing in my honor. It was an incredibly powerful moment for me to, to reflect on a lot of this in however long, a minute and something, when the anthem is playing, because
Right.
still there's a lot of things that are going through your mind. So, but that was certainly an incredibly a humble, just a special moment to think through that, through all of that.
And then after that, after you get done, you like you said, you're spent, you've got all the medals, you go home, and you say, I'm still competing for the next Olympics. The natural thing, or the common thing, would be, okay, I'm going to get back to the world championships, and I'm going to become the world champion. I'm going to do it that way, so I'm competing to get to the next Olympics. You didn't do that. What change did you make the next year?
Yeah, for me, it was, with my Jewish heritage, it was very important for me to go to Israel and to visit Israel, and to get closer to my roots. And obviously winning gold medals in Sydney, I felt that it would be more important for me to forego world championships and go to the Maccabiah, which is Jewish Olympics, and to go to Israel and participate in that. And for me, it was a cultural experience, and a self-fulfillment for me personally, just growing as a person, as a human being, and getting closer to my heritage. That was important to me. So that was a decision that I made, that to this day I feel like that was one of the best decisions in my life, to go through that experience.
Well, I think from the outside looking in, we almost give, especially in your discipline, we almost look at it as if you're so single-minded and focused and almost robotic that you don't have time or the thought process of being you, and to make that decision, it's like, I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to be me as well. So I think that's very impressive.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was really important for me. And one thing for me personally, and I'd like to think I've been pretty fortunate, that I've always been able to compartmentalize me as an athlete, and me as a person, and having a social life, and understanding that there's so much more to me, to life, than just sports. And sometimes we get so consumed with this single-minded, narrow focus of achieving these incredible heights in our athletic disciplines, that we tend to sometimes forget that there's so much more to life than sports. And I think I've always been able to compartmentalize that well, which I think helped me quite a bit in my career, because if I didn't have a good competition, or I didn't have a good string of practices, I knew my world wasn't coming to an end, because there's so much else to life. And I think that was that helped me.
Right, right. But I think that when you fall in love with the grind and you fall in love with that passion, sometimes we forget that there is that other stuff over there. So we'll get into where I think that heads to in a minute. But then you're back on the horse again. You go back to another Olympics. Is it easier the second time or harder the second time?
So for me, it was harder, but only because, well, first of all, it was harder because you're the best in the world and everyone wants to beat you. So that's obviously that's the big challenge. But the other part of it is that I ran into a number of injuries between the two Olympic Games. I had two shoulder surgeries. I had a knee surgery. So the challenge for me was, besides the fact that I need to try to remain on the top and remain the best, is that also I was always struggling to stay healthy. And when
Right.
you're talking the highest level of athletics, I mean, it's a challenge alone to stay there every day. But when you're trying to, stay healthy and struggle through injuries to remain on that's what made those years between the two Olympics tough for me.
And no pun intended, but there's a razor's edge between being that level and then when the injuries come, you have to maintain and improve who you are to get to that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now when it's a day that no one likes to admit to, but when that day hits you, like, I don't think I can continue being an elite athlete. What comes into mind there? This is what I've done for quite some time, and now I'm not that guy anymore. What do you think? Okay, I'm moving on, but how do I do that?
Yeah, for me personally, I actually realized that day will come when I was still competing.
Okay.
That period of time for me personally, in between the games, when I started to get the string of injuries, I realized that tomorrow is not guaranteed in sports.
Right.
So I need to think about some other, what is my exit strategy? What else can I do? So I started to plan in terms of what I would want to do post my athletic career, and started to work on the business plan to get my learn to swim programs started, or how I would do that. I started to talk a lot with business people or people that were in the industry, so I can get myself acquainted and can do the homework and understand that what does it take and how I would go about it. So having done the homework and having a chance to think through it and it helped me during the process when I decided to retire, because I knew what I was retiring to. So as an athlete, I had a goal. I wanted to, get to the
Right.
Olympics. I wanted to break a world record. I had a goal here that I wanted to start this business. I wanted to get going. So it was easier to wake up every morning because there was a purpose. I was striving towards something. And I think that's really important, and it's always a message that I tend to communicate to the current athletes, is that it's never too early to stop planning for the future. And no matter how focused you are with your career, no matter how driven you are to incredible achievements, there's always time to dedicate to start thinking about what's next. You can do things parallel and be successful at both.
And it kind of seems like you just exchanged one grind for another.
Well, that's the mindset.
Right.
That's the only way that's the only way I see. That's the only way I know is, if you got to be successful, no matter what your path is, and you got to grind. And
Right.
But if you're waking up in the morning and you're enjoying it, like we talked about it, no matter, yes, it's a grind, but if you enjoy it, you might not look at it as a grind.
Right.
That's just par for course.
Well, and that's it. When I'm doing what I do, I kind of say, am I doing this on Saturday morning? Yeah. Sunday after. Okay. Maybe you should stop doing this thing. No, I'm having fun. This is fun to me. So if that is the thing, I've had a chance to talk to a former synchronized swimmer. And when she was in college, she said, she's 5'2", 108 pounds, something like that. She's not a big person and doesn't come out as being an athlete. But she said the interesting thing was people knew I was an athlete when I went to school, when I went to class, because A, I carried myself like an athlete, and B, my hair was always wet. I always seem like I just got out of the pool.
Yeah, the pool.
So it's like, oh, you must be doing something. Every time I see you, yeah. So that's part of the grind, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so now as you exchange that passion into coaching and teaching, this is why I said we'll revisit this later. When you get to the point where you say, okay, you have to be disciplined in what you do to the people you're trying to inspire. But you also have to be yourself as well. How do you get them to understand that and the people around them to understand, hey, I became one of the best, actually the best athlete at this endeavor in the world, yet I still was able to maintain being myself. Sometimes we don't see our youth as we just push them and push them and push them and say, there has to be more to it than that. How do you get that across to them?
Yeah, it's all about it's all about communicating. It's all about giving them examples. It's obviously for me personally, it's about my experiences and what I went through and how I can have them relate to my experiences. At the end of the day, yes, you're right. I think it's about, there are certain fundamental principles in order to achieve success, and you can't shortcut them. You can't cheat through them. They work in every industry, in every walk of life. So I think it's really important that you continue to communicate to youth about those principles. I think also it's really important. Communication is incredibly important, which I think gets overlooked a lot when we talk with our youth, and especially we as adults. We need to teach them how to communicate properly so that they understand in any relationship, success of a relationship is the communication aspect of it. And when you're on the path to success, no matter what that is, you're always going to encounter people along the way that they're going to help you get there. So to be able to establish that communication so that you're on the same page is incredibly important for the success. And I always talk about that with youth and the importance of that, and being willing to speak up and speak up respectfully. That's one thing for me personally. I've always had great relationship with my coaches because first and foremost, I had respect for them because I saw them work hard because they wanted me to succeed.
Right.
So when I saw them work hard, I almost felt I owed it to them not to disappoint them, because they put in the effort to prepare to get me to a level I want to achieve. So I always appreciated that. I might have not always agreed with it, with the style or direction we were going, but I was always respectful, would communicate that. But no matter what the situation was, I always gave it 100% because I know they were prepared. And I felt like that was important for me to show my respect through the work ethic that I was putting in. So I talk a lot about that with youth in terms of those pillar principles of success and communication, how important all of that is. And at the end of the day, it's also what I talk a lot about is, when you wake up in the morning, can you look in the mirror and be honest with the person that's looking back at you?
Right.
That's, at the end of the day, that's the only person that you can be true to. And, are you doing the right things? Are you acting the right way? Did you give your all? Sometimes giving your all might not be the best, might not achieve the results you want. But if you gave it your all, I think most of us can live with the outcomes.
It's funny because my brother and I have this debate, whether it's be the best you can be or be the best you can be at that moment. And to be the best you can be at that moment, sometimes you're not the best you can be. And there's nothing right or wrong about that. Just some days you don't have it. But did you try? Did you make the effort to do the best that you could and be the best person you could be at that moment? And if you can say that,
Yeah.
like you said, look in the mirror in the beginning of the day or end of the day, and you're honest with yourself, you're going to have a pretty good life.
Yeah, I absolutely. I've always believed that principle and try to live that way.
Now, in your training and the academies and things that you've been involved in, I'm going to try and figure out the best way to word this. What is success for your charges? What is it how do they understand not the success that you have? You're not a finished product yet. Just keep plugging away and do what you do and achieve what you can at this moment, and maybe greater success will come down the road.
We start with very young kids and go into swim team. At the end of the day, it's all about goal setting. It's about setting a goal that could be as small or as big as you want to do it for yourself. So even when we're talking a 4-year-old, that a goal is to be able to kick across the pool might not be an attainable goal at first, but you can strive towards that. And you can think about that. And then when you achieve that goal, you feel incredibly satisfied and proud of it. And that adrenaline and that you feel by that achievement, you just build on that. And then you as an instructor, as a teacher, as a coach, you go into that bank of that satisfactory experiences that kids have, and you build on that. So now set a next goal and try to achieve that. And understand that it's not going to happen tomorrow. Might not happen next month, but it'll happen. It'll happen because you see it in front of you and you're striving for it and you believe in it.
And I guess that I'm speaking for you. If you were a teenager and you said, my goal is to be a gold medalist, that wouldn't have been realistic for you at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. At that point, it wouldn't have been that exactly. But I've set a smaller goals along the way to help me get to a point where I felt that it was realistic and it was possible. But it took a while, and it took smaller goals to get to a point where I could feel the other one was within my reach.
And you keep on, again, we go back to enjoying the grind and saying, I'm going to do this. Hey, I did it. What else can I do?
Yeah, there's always, you can always find something else. I mean, it's someone said someone said it, that you can never reach perfection. You can strive towards perfection, but you can never reach it. So you can always find other things to strive for and to be better at and to achieve something, and to wake up every morning with a purpose of being better today than you were yesterday. I think it's just it's the mindset that you need to continue to instill in yourself every single day.
Well, Lenny, I want to thank you for being with us. This has been fantastic. Like I told you off the air, I'm fascinated by not only that you got there, but what you did to get there. And then the fact that it didn't end with the Olympics and the medals and all that, and understanding that there's still more to give, and now you're giving back. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for your time, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you giving me a chance to share my story a bit.
Not a problem at all. Thank you.
All right. All the best to you.